What if everything you've ever believed about beauty was wrong? What if beauty had nothing to do with symmetry, skin, or standards, and everything to do with the way your brain filters reality? We often think of beauty as something objective. Magazines, movies, and media tell us who's beautiful and who's not, and we believe them, almost without question. We scroll past faces in a split second, making decisions about attractiveness we can't even explain. But behind every instinctive reaction is something far deeper. A system of subconscious patterns, psychological triggers, cultural codes, and personal memories. Beauty is not a fact. It's not carved in bone or shaped by genetics alone. It is a story, told by the mind, heard by the eyes. Let's begin at the core, the evolutionary origins of beauty. From a biological perspective, beauty evolved as a shortcut. Our ancestors didn't have time to ponder aesthetics in abstract terms. They had to make fast judgments about health, strength, fertility, and safety. And so, the brain learned to read certain traits: symmetry, clear skin, shiny hair, facial harmony, as signals of genetic fitness. This instinct is still active today. Studies show that we tend to find symmetrical faces more attractive, even if we can't consciously identify why. But evolution isn't the whole story. If it were, everyone across the planet would agree on what's beautiful, but they don't. In some cultures, paleness is considered elegant. In others, a deep tan is the mark of vitality. In some countries, thinness is idealized. In others, curves symbolize wealth and health. What we find beautiful is shaped by where and how we grow up. It's shaped by culture. Culture teaches us what to notice and what to desire. It creates templates of beauty, the archetype of the model, the hero, the goddess, the influencer. These images are repeated so often that they feel natural, but they're not. They are constructed, marketed, and refined over time, usually to sell something. Fashion, products, lifestyles, even identities. Here's the paradox. Beauty feels deeply personal, yet it is largely programmed. But that's not the end of the story either. Even within a culture, no two people see beauty the same way. Why? Because your brain is not a mirror, it's a filter. It doesn't just register a face or body. It interprets it. It adds layers of meaning, emotion, and memory. When you see someone who reminds you of a first love, your mind colors that face with warmth. When you see someone whose energy feels magnetic, your brain elevates their features into something more than they are. This, it is where psychological biases come into play. One of the most powerful is called the halo effect. It means that when we perceive someone as physically attractive, we unconsciously assign them other positive traits: intelligence, kindness, competence. But it also works in reverse. If someone behaves with charisma, warmth, or depth, our perception of their beauty increases. Think about that for a moment. Beauty can literally change in your mind based on how someone treats you or how you feel about them. So what does this mean? It means that beauty is fluid. It shifts with context, memory, energy, and emotion. You're not just seeing someone. You're perceiving them through 1,000 invisible lenses. And here's the real twist. The beauty you perceive in others often says more about you than it does about them. Your desires, your past, your values, your unmet needs, they all whisper in your mind as you look at a face. So maybe the mirror isn't on the wall at all. Maybe the real mirror is inside you. We like to think beauty is universal, that it follows fixed rules and scientific precision. And to an extent, it does. There are certain patterns hardwired into the human brain that influence how we perceive attractiveness. But what happens when we look deeper, beyond bone structure, beyond symmetry, beyond biology? We find a more complicated, more human truth. Beauty is not objective. It never was. It's a moving target, shaped by evolution, culture, and the ever-changing lens of perception. Let's start with evolution. The evolutionary roots of beauty are functional, not poetic. Early humans didn't need beauty for art. They needed it for survival. Attractiveness was a visual signal of fitness. Clear skin meant health. Symmetrical features suggested genetic stability. A certain waist-to-hip ratio hinted at fertility. These cues were not about aesthetics. They were about reproduction and survival. But even here, there are nuances. What is ideal changes depending on the environment. In times of famine, fuller bodies were seen as more attractive, a sign of access to food and health. In times of abundance, leaner bodies became preferable, associated with discipline and luxury. So even the evolutionary standard is conditional, not fixed. That brings us to culture, the great sculptor of perception. Culture doesn't just reflect beauty ideals. It creates them, it curates and markets them. It tells us not just what to find beautiful, but when, why, and how. In ancient Greece, beauty was tied to proportion, the golden ratio, the perfect nose, the idealized nude. In Renaissance art, beauty was full, soft, maternal. In Victorian England, beauty was pale and restrained, framed in corsets and etiquette. And in today's digital world, beauty is filtered, contoured, enhanced, shaped by algorithms, social media trends, and the aesthetics of the screen. But here's what most people forget. These ideals are taught, not inherent. They are repeated so often that we absorb them unconsciously. In magazines, in films, on our feeds. We internalize beauty as a script, one we didn't write, but follow anyway. This script is so powerful that it can override our personal preferences. It can make us question our own taste. It can make us chase faces and bodies that feel correct, even if they don't move us deeply. It can even cause beauty dysmorphia, a psychological distortion where people no longer see themselves accurately, because their mind has been hijacked by artificial standards. Here's where the illusion becomes dangerous. When we believe beauty is objective, when we believe there is a right way to look, we create a hierarchy of worth. We assign value based on bone structure, skin tone, and body type. We dehumanize others and ourselves. We turn beauty into currency, and we forget that what is called beautiful today was once mocked yesterday and might be rejected tomorrow. Ask yourself, how many beautiful people from the past would be ignored now? And how many average people today might have been worshipped as icons in another era? This is the danger of tying self-worth to a beauty ideal. The ideal moves, but your soul doesn't. And yet, despite all this conditioning, something inside us still resists the script. Something still whispers, I see beauty where others don't. A crooked smile, a soft voice, a unique presence, a sense of depth. These moments reveal a deeper truth. Beauty is not found in features, but in feeling. That's why two people can look at the same person and see something completely different. Because beauty lives in the mind of the beholder, in the emotions they carry, in the experiences they've lived, in the unconscious desires they project. There is no final form, no perfect face, only perception, shaped by everything you've been through. And so, when someone asks, what makes a person beautiful? The answer is not symmetry. It's not style. It's what they awaken in your mind. That awakening can't be measured, edited or standardized. It's personal, deep, mysterious, just like you. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as your mind allows you to. And nowhere is this more evident than in how we perceive beauty. We like to believe that attraction is something we choose, a rational response to external traits. But most of what we feel when we look at someone happens long before our conscious mind catches up. Beauty is not simply seen. It is interpreted, filtered, reconstructed inside your brain. And this process is riddled with bias, emotion, and subconscious programming. Let's begin with a powerful phenomenon called the halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias that causes us to attribute positive qualities to someone simply because we find them attractive. If someone looks good, we often assume, without any real evidence, that they must also be smart, kind, talented, or trustworthy. It's an automatic reaction. It happens in job interviews, on dating apps, in classrooms, in friendships. It colors our entire perception of a person. But it doesn't stop there. Once the halo effect kicks in, our brain starts collecting evidence to support the belief. We interpret their behavior more generously. We overlook their flaws. We amplify their strengths. And so the idea of beauty begins to extend beyond the physical, into the emotional and social realms. Interestingly, this effect works in reverse, too. If someone we admire starts behaving in a cruel or selfish way, we often begin to see them as less physically attractive, even if their appearance hasn't changed at all. Why? Because beauty, in truth, is a reflection of how someone makes us feel. This leads to a deeper point. Emotional association is one of the most underrated forces behind physical attraction. Have you ever found someone physically beautiful after they made you laugh? Or after they shared something vulnerable? Or after they made you feel seen? These moments rewire your brain's perception of their face, their posture, their voice. It's no longer about proportions. It's about presence. We are not drawn to perfection. We are drawn to resonance, to the parts of someone that mirror our own needs, values, wounds, or dreams. This is why two people can look at the same face and feel completely different things. Because beauty is contextual. It is shaped by what you're going through, what you're looking for, and who you believe you are. Then there's the power of familiarity. Psychological studies show that we tend to find people more attractive the more we see them, a phenomenon known as the mere exposure effect. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort, paradoxically, can heighten attraction. It's why someone you barely noticed at first can suddenly become captivating over time. The mind begins to associate their presence with ease, warmth, or safety, and beauty blooms from that soil. But perception can also be shaped by trauma. If someone reminds us, consciously or unconsciously, of a person who hurt us or abandoned us, we might find them less attractive or even repulsive, without fully understanding why. Conversely, we may be drawn to people who unconsciously resemble unresolved patterns, repeating emotional cycles without realizing we're doing it. In both cases, beauty becomes entangled with memory and emotion. It becomes a story we're still writing, through faces, through touch, through desire. And here lies the most profound truth of all. Your perception of beauty is never neutral. It is shaped by the people who loved you and the ones who didn't, the stories you've believed about yourself, the places you've felt safe, and the ones you haven't, your childhood, your heartbreaks, your healing. So when you look at someone and feel they're beautiful, remember, You're not just seeing their features. You're seeing your own history reflected in their face. We think of beauty as something external, but more often than not, it is internal recognition, something in them that activates something in us. Not every beautiful person is attractive, and not every attractive person is beautiful, because beauty lives in perception, and perception lives in the mind. We've spent centuries chasing beauty on the surface, measuring it, defining it, idolizing it. But the deeper we look, the clearer it becomes. The most powerful kind of beauty doesn't come from the body. It radiates from something less visible, but far more transformative. It comes from within. Inner beauty is not a cliché. It is a psychological force, subtle but undeniable. It's what causes someone's face to change in your eyes the more time you spend with them. It's the reason someone you once overlooked can become unforgettable. And it's why sometimes the people we remember as most beautiful didn't look like magazine covers at all. Let's break this down. When we talk about inner beauty, what do we mean? We're not just talking about being nice. We're talking about energy, a presence that feels genuine, a mind that shines through the eyes, a warmth that makes others feel safe, a passion that ignites something in the room. These traits aren't seen, they're felt. Inner beauty speaks to our deepest instincts. It tells us, this person is real, this person is safe, this person sees me. It bypasses the critical voice that analyzes cheekbones and waistlines and goes straight to the emotional brain. And this is where the science gets fascinating. Neuroscience tells us that human connection is largely driven by empathy, trust, and emotional attunement. When we feel emotionally understood by someone, when they respond to our tone, body language, and feelings, our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This deepens not only our affection, but also our attraction. The face of the person who makes us feel safe begins to seem more beautiful. Their voice becomes more soothing, their gestures more magnetic. In other words, emotional connection changes perception. We see beauty not just with our eyes, but with our nervous system. It is not passive. It is interactive. This is why someone who glows with authenticity, who listens with full presence, who reveals vulnerability instead of hiding behind perfection, can become luminous in your mind. Their inner world enhances their outer features, and even their flaws begin to feel like part of their charm. Compare this to someone who meets every standard of physical beauty but feels cold, arrogant, or disconnected. Over time, their looks begin to lose impact. We may still recognize their symmetry, but the magnetism is gone. Why? Because true beauty is emotional resonance, not just what you see, but what you feel. This is also why we sometimes fall in love with someone's mind before their appearance. An idea they express, a story they tell, a depth in their gaze, a silence they hold without fear. These invisible traits slowly shift our perception. Beauty reveals itself through layers, like a story that unfolds chapter by chapter. Here's another truth. Inner beauty amplifies physical beauty. Confidence, not arrogance, changes posture. Kindness softens the face. Laughter lights up the eyes. Purpose adds fire to the voice. A person aligned with who they are becomes magnetically visible. And the opposite is also true. A person at war with themselves, bitter, dishonest, or numb, can appear dull, even if outwardly attractive. Because energy doesn't lie, and over time your perception adjusts accordingly. We must stop thinking of beauty as something that starts with skin. It doesn't. It starts with intention, alignment, and soul. Your beauty is not just how you look. It's how you exist. It's how you listen, how you speak, how you carry pain without letting it poison others, how you create space for others to breathe. That is presence. That is power. That is beauty. So when you wonder what makes someone truly beautiful, ask yourself, how do they make others feel? How do they hold silence? What kind of energy walks into the room before they say a word? Because the most beautiful people aren't just looked at, they are felt. There's a truth we rarely speak out loud. The way you see yourself quietly teaches others how to see you. You can wear the finest clothes, apply the best makeup, have the most symmetrical features. But if your self-perception is rooted in doubt, shame, or self-rejection, the world will feel that. It will mirror it back. Not because you aren't beautiful, but because you've hidden the signal of your own worth. This is the invisible power of self-perception. We often think beauty is about being seen, but in reality, beauty starts with how we see ourselves. And more often than not, we don't really see. We judge, we compare, we criticize, we shrink. We look into the mirror not with eyes of clarity, but with years of conditioning. We don't see the face, we see the comments from childhood, the rejection from youth, the filtered images online that convince us we don't measure up. So we carry a fractured image of ourselves into the world. And that image shapes our posture, our tone, our energy, our entire presence. But what if that image is a lie? What if the thing holding you back from being seen as beautiful is just your own disbelief? Let's look at the psychology. Studies show that self-confidence significantly increases perceived attractiveness, even when physical traits remain unchanged. When someone carries themselves with quiet assurance, not arrogance but ease in their own skin, they emit a different frequency. Others are drawn to them, even if they don't fit traditional beauty standards. Why? Because beauty is not just a shape, it's a signal of presence, a signal of openness, a signal of self-respect. When you believe you're worthy, not because of perfection, but because of who you are, your body language changes. You take up space. You stop apologizing for existing. You speak clearly. You breathe deeper. Your eyes meet others without flinching. And that changes everything. Here's the twist. People don't fall in love with your features. They fall in love with how your presence makes them feel. And self-belief makes others feel something they can't explain. But they don't forget. We've all witnessed it. Someone walks into a room and they're not the most attractive person by conventional standards. But their energy is grounded. Their smile is real. They don't seek approval. They radiate authenticity. And suddenly, they're magnetic. This is the paradox. The less you try to be beautiful, the more you become it, when your self-perception shifts from insecurity to acceptance. But that shift is hard, because we're surrounded by mirrors that distort. Social media, advertising, unspoken comparisons. So how do you break the cycle? You start by changing the narrative. You stop asking, do I look good enough? And you start asking, what do I want to embody? Grace, confidence, kindness, depth, boldness. These qualities are not installed from outside. They're cultivated through practice. The practice of honoring your existence. Even if no one compliments you, even if no one validates you, even if your past taught you to doubt every part of yourself. Because here's the truth most people never realize. The moment you begin to believe you're beautiful, the world begins to agree. Not because the world changes, but because your perception commands new rules. You smile differently. You move differently. You respond differently. And others, consciously or not, adjust their perception accordingly. Of course, this doesn't mean we should base our value on looks, but it means our relationship to our image is far more powerful than we're taught. It is a form of energy, and energy always speaks before words. So if you want to change how the world sees you, start by changing how you see you. Stand in front of the mirror, not to criticize, but to witness. This is the face that has survived. These are the eyes that have seen both joy and heartbreak. This is the body that carries your entire story. Own it, not for attention, but for freedom. Because the most beautiful people are not chasing a look. They are embodying a truth. At some point in your life, you wake up and realize the beauty you've been chasing isn't out there. It never was. You spent years trying to fit into shapes, expectations, and categories, thinking that once you arrived at the right appearance, happiness would follow. But that happiness never stayed, because the definition you were chasing wasn't yours. True beauty begins the moment you stop trying to become it and start remembering that you already are. This isn't about self-delusion. It's about awakening. Awakening to the idea that beauty has never been a finish line. It's a frequency. It's not a goal. It's a way of being. When you redefine beauty as something personal, psychological, and spiritual, everything changes. You no longer compare. You no longer shrink. You no longer treat yourself as a project to fix. Instead, you become a presence to express. Let's unpack that. You are not beautiful because you look like someone else. You are beautiful because you carry a story no one else can tell. Your scars, your struggles, your smile, your silence. They are yours. They are earned. Every wrinkle, every stretch mark, every freckle is a brushstroke in the painting of your existence. To deny them is to erase your own depth. When you honor your story, beauty becomes an act of self-ownership. It's not, I am beautiful if. It's, I am beautiful because I am still here. The most radiant people are not the most perfect. They are the most integrated. They've met their darkness without shame. They've faced their pain without pretending it didn't hurt. They've accepted parts of themselves they once tried to hide. And in doing so, they glow. Psychologically, this is called self-integration. When you stop splitting yourself into acceptable and unacceptable parts, your energy becomes whole. That wholeness is magnetic. It creates a quiet confidence, and it changes how others experience you. No external feature can replace that. On a deeper level, beauty is spiritual. It's not just what you wear or how you look. It's how you show up. It's your presence, your stillness, your compassion. It's how deeply you listen, how gently you speak, how courageously you love. Spiritual beauty doesn't age. It doesn't expire. It deepens. You've seen it before. An elder who radiates grace without saying a word. A stranger whose kindness changes the energy of a room. A friend who holds space for your pain without trying to fix it. That's spiritual beauty. And it lives in everyone waiting to be remembered. We've been taught that beauty is a performance, a constant effort to impress, attract, or prove. But the deeper truth is this. Beauty is not something you perform. It's something you embody. It's not in the mirror. It's in your alignment. When how you move, how you feel, and who you are become one. This alignment is magnetic. Not because it's flawless, but because it's real. People are drawn to authenticity like flowers to sunlight. They may not even know why, but they feel it. Now you stop chasing someone else's standard. You begin defining your own. You choose to look at yourself, not with judgment, but with reverence. You choose to speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. You choose to reclaim your own reflection. Because when you finally see yourself, truly see yourself, something remarkable happens. You become free, and that freedom is the most beautiful thing of all. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming, and in that becoming, you are already beautiful.